Right. Well, it is 6:05, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up and let's begin. And I just want to say welcome to each and every one of you that are here. Students, you'll see that there are some faculty here who you probably recognize. Megan, our advisor's here. Myself, Kelly Richmond Moore, I'm here, but we have some agency representatives and we have some students here, and all of us are really excited for each of you. This is our first attempt to put together a workshop that's really focused on what happens postgraduate. I think that we give a lot of opportunity to talk about building within the program, but now more than ever, I think it's just really helpful for us to think about being in your shoes and thinking about what's next. And so Dr. Demetral had provided a structure where he had talked about what he does in his class. And Dr. Nakaoka, who's our undergraduate program director, was like, hey, I think we can expand this and make this broader. And so we put our heads together and I think came up with a product that I hope is going to be really relevant for each of you, thinking about where am I going to go from here. And so we're going to do introductions here in a moment, but I do just want to remind folks of the fact that we are on Zoom, and so there's some etiquette pieces that we'll just want to be mindful of. Just remember to mute your mics as the presenters are talking if you're not actively engaged in participation. You can feel free to keep your cameras off, but of course, if you're actively asking questions, we would encourage you to keep your camera on if that is possible. If not, just let us know. Use the chat feature. We'll make sure that we're monitoring those things. And really, ultimately, we just want you to feel like this is an open dialogue. This isn't some opportunity for you to sit through another lecture. We don't intend for that to be like this at all. We provided a structure when our agencies come on to talk, just so that you had an awareness of the information that they're going to cover. But I think that if we're operating with a really small number, this can be really curtailed to each of you. And everybody has a desire to want to welcome you here, students. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to really the introductions. I think that we're at a point where we can do introductions, since I sort of covered the purpose of the workshop. Would anybody else like to start?
Well, I'll go first because I'm the one that most of our students know, but my name is Megan Solomon. I'm the advisor for the Division of Social Work. So most of the students I know really well, as well as faculty, and I'm really excited to meet some of our field agencies. I hear about your amazingness from our students as well as our field team, so it's great to finally put some names to faces, and thank you so much for coming tonight.
I'll go. As Kelly mentioned, my name is Susan Nakaoka. I'm an assistant professor with Sac State. I've been here about 3.5 years, but this is the first year I'm the undergraduate program director. So I'm excited to be a part of these type of events and welcome everybody.
Dr. Demetral?
Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Dr. David Demetral. I want to welcome everybody, and I think on behalf of Megan and Kelly and especially Susan, we all want to recognize and first of all say congratulations to all of you that are here tonight. You have been successful at negotiating probably one of the most difficult academic years that any of us could have ever imagined. You have been successful at negotiating COVID and COVID-19 and all of its challenges in relation to what you were dealing with in your field placement. You all gave of yourself unselfishly, trying to make it the best field placement that you could make it, while you were giving to very vulnerable people also struggling with the ambiguity and uncertainty of the COVID environment. You also needed to display an incredible degree of patience through the insurrection and the election and the incredible sort of tension around the late fall into the mid-semester. You also needed to find a peaceful place to deal with some sort of and make some sort of sense in your classroom and in your field placements with the racial injustice and certainly the violence against our Black brothers and sisters and our brothers and sisters, our transsexual brothers and sisters, as well as our Asian brothers and sisters. So it was a very unique year for all of you. And we just want to applaud you all. You dedicated yourself to your education. You dedicated yourself to your field practicum. You dedicated yourself to becoming the best social workers that you can be. And tonight is just a small recognition of our appreciation for all of you and our incredible celebration of your achievements and your graduation. We thought we would put together a forum where we could offer you support on job finding skills, on job application skills, on how to do a resume, some ideas about what agencies are looking for, some ideas about some things you could do to maybe add to your resume to make yourself even more marketable for the job market, as well as potentially for graduate school, whether that's an MSW or a different advanced degree. We just really wanted to be available for you tonight. And, you know, typical of what this program is all about, we can't do this program without our agencies. We have no illusion that we are the master teachers. And I say that to all of you who have ever had me as a professor. And I say that to our agency representatives tonight. The master teachers are the field instructors. The master teachers are the agency context. The master teachers are the clients, consumers, students, persons that we get a privilege to work with every day. So we have no illusions in the division that we are the master teachers. Well, maybe with the exception of Susan, but I have no illusion that I am a master teacher. I am just a facilitator. And tonight is really about that, facilitating your future. And so tonight is a small sample of our commitment to all of you. We will help you with resumes. We will help you with job finding strategies. If you need a separate Zoom appointment or a separate kind of appointment, we are all here for you. So if you don't get your answer tonight, certainly find the courage to email, reach out, and we will set up support systems for all of you to find that job or to do the next step in your career. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the honor of being here.
And how do you follow up after Dr. Demetral so eloquently put that together? It's like swinging for the fences after somebody just hit a grand slam. But nonetheless, no, thank you, Dr. Demetral. What you shared is completely profound and exudes the passion that I think that we're all really wanting to identify with and share with the students this year more than ever around all the things that we've asked them to do and bending and flexing and really my also heartfelt thank you goes out to the agencies who jumped at the chance to be here, who've jumped at every chance to participate in making our students have that experience that may look different than in other years, but nonetheless, they were going to get an experience that was realistic of social work in the time of COVID. So I would love if those of you that are here on behalf of an agency, if you just would like to share your name and your agency role and which agency you're representing, and just students, just so you know, they will each have opportunities to talk more in depthly. So this isn't, we're not at that point in the evening, but just wanted to give you some context as to who are these other faces that are on the screen with you. So Deborah, do you mind? You're right on my left. So would it be okay if I asked you first?
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. I feel it is a privilege and an honor to be able to work in collaboration with CSUS in providing the BSW students with this information. I am a BSW graduate of CSUS and an MSW graduate of CSUS, and currently have the privilege of working for Turning Point Community Programs. We support between 130 and 140 interns each year, and I want you to know that CSUS is the only university out of 120 that we're affiliated with that I will accept a BSW student from. The rest of them are all graduate students. And the reason I do that is because I have every confidence that they are being taught what they need to learn to be effective and to help and support our members with successful outcomes. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Terri, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Hard to go after Dr. Demetral and Deborah, so I'll try. Good evening. My name is Terri Smyth. I am the Director of Youth and Family Services with Community Housing Opportunities Corporation. So we just say CHOC because that's much easier. We're an affordable housing developer, and I'm happy to be here tonight. I have, as many of you on here have, I've supported this BSW program, and we've had interns from the BSW program for 22 years now. which that means I've been here, David Demetral, for 22 years. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more later and kind of share some of my thoughts and grandiose wisdoms, I guess.
Terri, you missed the biggest part. Weren't you an intern with CHOC?
22 years ago.
Right?
I
Some
was
roots grow
there
deep.
the first, yes. Randomly enough, I started me and I think it was 5 guys. I was the only girl at the placement, which is just the most weirdest thing. And yes, I'm thank you to Dr. Demetral and his advocacy and efforts. And I actually stayed 2 years and it's been great.
Thank you, Terri. And Melissa, would you be okay to go next?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Lloyd. I'm the Deputy Director for Child Welfare for Sacramento County. And I too am just very honored to have this opportunity to engage with other community partners, but also with all the students, of course. Just a little bit about me. I also, just like Deborah, I'm a BSW graduate from CSUS social work program, as well as a Title IV MSW graduate as well. And I also, although I do not expect you to remember Dr. Demetral, but I did take courses from Dr. Demetral way back in '99. So so happy to see everyone. I'm here with Ruth Mackenzie, who will introduce herself in just a moment, but very, very happy to be here, happy to share information. DCFAS, which is Department of Child, Family, Adult Services, is very committed to taking on interns every single year. I was an MSW intern for child welfare back during my time as an MSW student. Clearly, I still love the work. I'm in it for the long haul. It's been 20 something years. So very, very happy. And I was very proud of the work we did several years ago to enhance our opportunity for bachelor level students. So looking forward to sharing a bit more in just a little while. But thank you again for the outreach to have us here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Melissa. And Ruth, we just met recently because we're expanding our ability to have students on a different side of Sacramento County. Would you like to share a little bit about you and the department you work for?
Sure. I work pretty close with Melissa. She does child protective services and I do senior and adult services. So we have a couple of arms that we touch. First, a lot of people don't know this, but there is adult protective services. So we investigate allegations of abuse and neglect against older persons, as well as what are considered dependent adults. That is, people that can't make decisions to protect themselves. In addition, our department has in-home supportive services, which serves approximately 30,000 clients in the community. Care is provided to them in their home. They get to select caregivers of their choice. And so there's also an additional 28,000 caregivers. I kind of paused for a minute because I live next door to my mother, who's 78 years old, and she loves having me remote work. But I got to tell you, she's over here 700 times a day, so I could see her tromping over. And then she opened the door and heard that it was my turn to talk. So then, of course, if I was ever going to be articulate, it goes right out the door, you know. So anyway, that's what we do over at Senior and Adult Services, as well as we have the Public Guardian's Office. So people who are conserved because of cognitive inability to manage their affairs or who have psychiatric conditions. That's us.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And you know what's really what was remarkable about our meeting and thinking about additional BSW opportunities was that idea of having them do some rotations through different programs so they get the experience on all sides of the adult services. And I just thought that that was great. So really looking forward to that, new expansion for next year. And we will have another agency representative come on. If you noticed in the agenda that I sent out, And maybe students, you didn't see this, but we had one more agency representative, but I mentioned to her that it wouldn't likely start until 6:30 as agencies were talking. So that's my cue to stop talking so that Megan can cover some additional information regarding the Career Center, and Dr. Nakaoka and Dr. Demetral can talk about a couple of things before we get into the agency specific stuff. So Megan, would you like to take over talking about the Career Center?
Absolutely. So one of the hidden gems of Sac State is our Career Center. And as potential soon-to-be graduates from the BSW program, there are a lot of these resources you can still utilize even when you're not a current student at Sac State. So being that Hornet alum will still get you some of the great benefits that you have while you're a student here. So the first thing is the Career Center itself. These slides also, before I jump into them, because I know there's a lot of links, these will be sent to all of our BSW students after, so you will have access to these in one place, and that way you can use their services. Again, the Career Center is available for current students and alumni, and there are actually ways as an alumni you can still schedule an appointment with your Career Center advisor. They use the same system I do for appointments, but they do have it set up so you can still meet with them, which is great. So a few of the resources that they have, the first is Handshake. So Handshake is our new job posting platform for the university. And this is where the division also sends all of the jobs that we get emailed. So we always tell our agencies, please post it on this website, because that's the one way we can guarantee all of our students, current students and alumni are able to see the jobs. I highly recommend making sure you log in here, get accustomed to it, go through any of the tutorials that are available, because this will be a great resource even post-grad that you'll be able to use. The next is something called Big Interview. So this is actually a service that's provided again through the Career Center, where you can use this to learn and practice your interview skills, whether you're interviewing for a job, and then even when you're getting ready to interview for graduate school. Because many graduate programs will have that interview, and this is a great way to get practice ahead of time. So when you go in there, you are ready to go and you know what you're doing. The next is Focus to Career. This actually helps you develop your personalized career and education plans. Again, this is available to you, so you can use this link. You can start to put in your interests, your career goals, and then as well as your education. It'll help tailor that to you. The next one is What Can I Do with This Major, which is a fantastic resource. So this will go through and you can actually choose your program, and you can learn about typical career areas and types of employers that hire people with our major. You can look at strategies on how to make yourself more marketable as a candidate for those jobs. And then you can also continue additional resources, continue research with some additional resources and websites that are provided. We also have a Sac State Career Network. This is for either mentors or mentees. You can sign up after you graduate to help current students going through the program, as well as utilize these services for anyone that you may want to chat with. You could get career and industry advice, coaching, and insight. And it's a fantastic network of Sac State alumni, and they'll be able to assist you. Now, the next one, and now this one's very personal to the division because our former advisor, Melissa Maganzo, is on this podcast. She actually helps run it. So it's the Hired Podcast. This is a great weekly post that you can listen to. It's all about getting jobs post-graduation, how to make yourself more marketable, and everything you need for career development so you can get hired once you graduate, which is always the end goal. The other thing is the Career Center is actually utilizing their YouTube page a lot now. So they actually have their on-demand career workshops. So they record a lot of their workshops. So you can actually go in there if you missed one, and you can utilize all those resources, even though they may have passed for that event. While I'm not a representative from the Career Center, you can email me if you have questions, but I do 100% recommend that you reach out to them and you utilize these resources that are there for free as a current student, as an alumni. This will be really beneficial for you moving forward. So that is my spiel. I would like to pass it over to Susan. She'll be taking over our NASW information when it comes to employment.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to just put in the chat a link to a folder. And I have loaded the few things I'm going to point out. So before I talk about NASW, let me just share my screen. Our staff was kind enough to send over some of these what's called occupation reports. So there's a few of them I put in the folder. This one I'll just show you really quickly just to show you what you could find. So if you want to find out kind of the salaries, education level for some of these occupations, here's one on mental health and substance abuse social workers. And it's a good one to look at because there are a lot of under BSW level jobs in these fields, right, in particular. So it'll show you the average wages, what you can expect in growth, employment by industry. So you could see like the biggest chunk is outpatient care centers, and then you could look at all the different areas that employ these type of social workers, all the way down to employment services, schools. Here's more about the wages. If you're looking at entry level, it's right about here. With a bachelor's degree, it might be a little bit more than this, but really when you get into experience, you're probably looking at folks with a lot of years or an MSW, right, in this particular field, or different certifications as well, especially in mental health and substance abuse. But which you can also look at demographics, but I'm trying to get to the education profile. Here we go. So this particular job area, the majority have a master's degree, right, 68%, but here's the percentage that has the 4-year degree, right, or the BSW. So this is about the chunk of jobs that you'll find that are BSW level. Let me just show another grouping really quick. Why don't we go to, okay, all other. So there's one in child welfare. This one is all other. So social workers you'll find in a variety of fields. So we'll take a look at that in a second. So here's the different industries here. Individual family services, justice, public order, safety, et cetera, government. So you'll find a wide variety of social work positions. Salary a little bit higher here with the entry level, 45,000, and then again higher with experience. And let me go to the education profile here. So here's a bigger chunk, almost half available for BSW level folks, right? So if you want to look at the wide variety of social work fields, take a look at this one. There's also one on child, family, and school. And what was this last one? There's one in management. Here we go. Social and community service managers. So a little higher salary for social and community service managers, but usually takes at least a couple years experience to get to that level. So those are loaded in that folder. We do have a really good working relationship with California NASW. So they sent us 3 documents here. This one talks about being a professional social worker, which will include you with a bachelor's level degree. Benefits of membership. I'll post this again. Where can I get membership information? But this is really a card for the code of ethics. So sometimes people print this out and put it in their office, but here's the NASW code of ethics. What's more exciting though are these 2 documents. So this one in particular is a student information guide. And while you're still a student, I highly, highly recommend that you become a member, because you'll see here the discounted membership of $60. That's about a third of what you're going to pay once you cross the stage, or if there was a stage, once you drive by to get your current degree. It goes up to, I believe, $158. So definitely get that membership while you're a student. So in the next month, sign up for $60. But you'll see they have the resume review and job prep, peer support groups, professional network building, continuing education. There's a lot of benefits for NASW. So this is about a 6-page document, again, found in that folder. And then finally, another student brochure. I wanted to point out one thing from here. Yeah, again, they have a whole career page with career tips, finding jobs, interviewing successfully, managing student loans, something we could all use help with for sure once you graduate. And again, that student membership with up to 75% off due. So, and then all the links to websites, membership, et cetera, are there. So again, find all of that in the folder I posted. And the last thing I'll post, the membership coordinator said, if you are a member, if you become a member soon, you can email her at this address, membership@nasw.org. You'll get a teal cord for your graduation gown. So when you graduate, students definitely get usually get different types of cords or little decorative things to show what they've been through. But if you're an NASW member, you can get a teal cord just by emailing her. So I recommend that you do that and become a member soon. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nakaoka. These are actually some resources I've never even seen before, so it'll be great to have them in our arsenal of just information we can provide students and give them that further guidance. And Megan, I just want to make sure we are going to compile everything every presenter has shared if they have additional supplemental information, and we'll put together something on Canvas related to all of this, correct?
Correct. So I was taking notes as we were going through. I'll either add them to the slides and then save it as a PDF. And that way it's available. And I'll also link the video from tonight's presentation there as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Demetral, would you be, you're up next to talk about CADC certificate and CAS and just what additional opportunities maybe for students who are interested.
Well, I think there's a number of different things, and I want to create the space for Deborah and Terri and Melissa and Ruth to have an incredible amount of time to speak, because that's the most important part about tonight, along with all these other resources. But a couple of different things. I want to be here to represent the agencies that offer services to persons with developmental disabilities as well. And those are individuals with intellectual disability, autism, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, significant learning disabilities. There are 21 different regional centers that provide case management services that you've been highly trained for. I really loved what Deborah was talking about. The regional center system loves hiring Sac State graduates at the BASW level because you are tremendously well trained to serve case management functions. There are 21 regional centers. The one that is local is Alta California Regional Center. And then there is Valley Mountain Regional Center 90 miles down the road. They serve counties. There are infant, early intervention infant services. There are school age services. There is transition services for those teenagers between the ages of 16 and 23. Then there's adult services, and then there's specialized services for individuals that are aging and aged. So if you're interested in developmental disabilities, it is a really, really wonderful employment opportunity for you to practice autonomous case management while learning essential skills and serving a population that absolutely loves your presence and loves your service. So if you have any questions about developmental disabilities when we open the platform up later, please ask me or feel free to email me and we can have a conversation. There are a couple of different options, not just the CAS and CADC, that I'd like you to think about. I had a professor at the University of Michigan that one time said that if you could do a twofer or a threefer, then you're really a lucky person. And a twofer or a threefer is to do two things at once that increase your productivity, increase your employability, increase your marketability. What I mean by that is, some of you may be very interested in identifying what your career path will be. Some of you maybe are interested in crisis kind of work, but don't know where you might find that experience. Think about maybe doing some suicide hotline kind of volunteer training where you learn how to apply your crisis management skills on a suicide hotline. Some of you also may be very passionate about domestic violence, about violence towards women, gay, lesbian, trans, bisexual, QQ community. So maybe you want to think about doing some domestic violence training where you actually could become a support person that maybe goes with people now that COVID is starting to loosen up a bit. Maybe actually go with people to emergency rooms and provide that emergency support, as well as wrap yourself around an agency like Weave to really do some ongoing volunteer work. Another area, and you saw it in what Susan highlighted, was mental health and substance abuse. And really, when you look at Turning Point, it is one of the premier agencies in California that supports individuals in a recovery-based kind of model with what used to be chronic and persistent mental illness and substance use disorders, or dual diagnosis. Some of you may have never heard about it, but with your bachelor's degree, you are very, very, very attractive to the CAS and CADC kind of career trajectory. What I mean by that is California Substance Abuse Counselor. That's really what that means, California Substance Abuse Counselor. This is kind of complicated, but I will give the information to Megan to post up with all the other resources. Let me just give you an overview. The general requirements for education, training, and examination. All certification programs require a candidate to meet minimum training requirements established by the California Code, which is the Health and Safety Code. Addiction specialists must have a minimum of 155 hours of classroom education. Now, don't freak out. Go, oh my gosh, I mean, I got to go to a whole lot more school. They must meet the competencies set forth by the addiction counseling competencies, the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of professional practice, also known as TAP 21, and they must have training in delivering services to special populations. Now think about that. Much of your bachelor's program has done a lot of those things. You'll need to complete the following steps to become certified in California. Substance abuse counselors register for certification, and here's what you need. You have to have a bachelor's degree or master's degree. You all have that in a behavioral science, social work, sociology, human services, or psychology. You must complete a practicum. Some of you have already completed practicum hours that'll count towards your CAS or CADC credential. You need to do sufficient supervised work. So if you're thinking about employment, maybe think about employment at an agency that serves people with substance abuse, and then count that as a twofer where you can get supervision and do your practicum while you're being employed, like an agency like Turning Point, all right? You also have to pass a written examination, which is on chemical dependency kind of concepts. If you took our Social Work 118, you've got a really good idea about the kind of content that would be on that exam. And then what you do is you apply for certification through the California Commission for Behavioral Health Certification. There are a couple of credentials and certifications that are very, very easy to get. And this information will be in your packet too. One is through the California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals. It's called a Registered Alcohol Drug Technician. You complete a 9-hour orientation course. You complete an RADT application. You sign up for the SUD Counselor Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct training, which is an 8-hour training. You sign the RADT Scope of Practice Agreement. You renew annually, and you must document progress towards certification whenever you renewal. So you right now are eligible to be listed as a registered alcohol and drug technician. And then you can start your path towards what's called a Certified Alcohol and Drug Counselor 2, which is a CADC 2 certification. That's just a brief overview, but I wanted to give you the exciting kind of future that you could think about any of these: suicide hotline, domestic hotline training, or credentialing with your CAS and CADC to enter the incredible world of substance abuse and mental health. And as you learned in your classes, we are currently experiencing an epidemic in drug abuse in our society, and especially in the Sacramento region. So what an exciting time to become a part of the CAS and CADC community, serving individuals with substance abuse as a counselor and technician. Hopefully that excites you, and if you want further information, I'm available, and I'll give the information to Megan to put up on the resource list. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Demetral. Like what you've really shared can highlight some additional avenues that I'm going to guess that not all of our BSW students are aware of. So I look forward to having them see more opportunities that give them those opportunities for a twofer or a threefer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and cognizant of their desires to be employed and to be employable moving forward. So thank you very much.
Yep.
And we are now at a point where our agencies, one by one, are going to be sharing just different information that you'll actually, students, you'll see the prompts that they're going to respond to. But we're going to start off, and I just wanted to also acknowledge that we have another agency. I mentioned to everybody that Megumi Storms was going to be joining us. Megumi, welcome. So glad that you're here. And in a little bit, sorry about that. In a little bit, she'll be able to share more about the agency that she's representing, but I wanted to give as much time as I can to the agencies to talk about really their scope of work and expectations for BSW students and opportunities. And so without further ado, Deborah, again, since you're kind of on my left, I don't know why you've maintained that same position this whole time, but let's go ahead and have you begin talking about Turning Point. And Megan, would it be okay? Yep, I was just going to ask you if you could have the prompts up there. And I believe Deborah is going to share a screen too.
Right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for participating. I'm just really honored to be able to present a little bit of information about our agency and about opportunities that BSWs have in the mental health field. Just to piggyback just a moment on what Dr. Demetral said, many of you may already know, but some of you may not understand that there is a very high correlation between living with severe and persistent mental illness and having a substance use disorder or problem. And the reason for that is that people who are experiencing severe and persistent mental illness generally live with symptoms that at times become absolutely intolerable and overwhelming. And they seek for ways to get a break or a brief respite from experiencing those symptoms. And what can you find on every single corner? Drugs, alcohol. And once you once you make that kind of a choice, it's just a slippery slope, into addiction. So there is very much a very major correlation between the two. So working in mental health is also an excellent way if your eventual long-term goal is to become a CADC2, become a person who works exclusively with people with substance use disorders. Working in mental health, you will get a lot of experience. Having said that, I'd like to share my screen. If you can all see, can you see the BSW Employment Workshop page? Okay, I just put a couple of things down here. Our hiring philosophy, we've been around for 45 years. We have over 50 programs in 10 Northern California counties. Our mission is our commitment to empowering people of all ages to live, ages and identities, to live their very best life through the delivery of quality behavioral health and social services. We serve people of all ages, from little tiny guys who we are assessing for spectrum disorders or for other issues that they may be having, all the way to seniors who are experiencing maybe end-of-life issues or other things. And in between, we deal with little guys, we deal with children, adolescents, TAY, transitional age youth. We have specific programs for all of those age groups. With regard to internships, we have had interns from CSUS that have interned for 3 years with us. They do their BSW internship and then their MSW 1 and 2. And that's because we offer such a wide variety of different treatment modalities, different populations. You can enter a program and be in a completely different world than you were in a previous program. So that's a wonderful opportunity. If you really are committed and you already know that mental health or substance use is where you want to be, Turning Point is a great place for you. And, as far as, who do I look for? What kind of applicants do I hope for? I believe that if people have open minds and an eagerness for learning and experiencing and that natural curiosity, I can teach pretty much anything to anyone as long as they have that attitude and that belief. But it is very helpful for them to have the kind of foundation that they get through participating in a BSW program. So if you are the kind of person who loves challenging work, every day is different, and you love empowering people, if you have a belief in strength-based practice, if you completely embrace that perspective and it's who you are in the world, the way you are in the world with everyone, strength-based practice, I'm going to want to work with you. We are going to want you to come work for us. If you understand principles of trauma-informed care, if you totally believe in the hope for recovery for everyone, that's who we want to hire. Why choose Turning Point? We've got a wonderful benefits program. We have rigorous training, which is another thing that falls under my purview. So in addition to your interns and employees being able to participate in program trainings, they also participate in our TPCP Training Academy, which is a 12-week, 3 hours a week training in things like motivational interviewing, trauma-informed care, strength-based practice, suicide prevention and intervention, mandated reporting, documentation, behavioral interventions, nonviolent crisis intervention, and things of that nature. But in addition to that, we also provide opportunities, and this is all free of charge to employees, to participate in clinical trainings from leading experts in the field on CBT, DBT, ACT. Well, if you don't know what those are, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, narrative therapy, moral recognition therapy, family contextual therapy, parent-child interactional therapy. It just really runs the gamut of the opportunities within our training department. So if you want to further your education, I think it's important to know too that the experience that you have working at Turning Point will give you skills that will prepare you for any other social work job. And I've listed those here under transferable skills: respect for diversity. We infuse social justice and health equity and diversity into all of our training, our teachings, and the work that we do. Emotional intelligence research is showing us that people who are the most successful in their jobs, more important even than your IQ, is your EQ, your emotional intelligence. Strength-based trauma-informed care, you'll learn teamwork. You'll hopefully leave with a belief in the possibility of recovery for everyone. You'll learn a true person-centered philosophy. Our clients are in the driver's seat. It is never about what we assess or what we think our clients should or shouldn't do. It's about what they want for their life. And honestly, if people want to keep using drugs or people don't want to take medications, that's okay with us. We just then have a conversation with them on how they can do that in a way that causes them and the community less harm. That's called harm reduction theory. It's another one of our treatment modalities that we use. And then, of course, you're going to learn critical thinking skills. I think a really cool thing that you need to know is that our CEO and our COO, Chief Operations Officer, both started out as interns at Turning Point and moved their way up to the very top. We have many program directors and regional directors that also started out as BSW interns. And so we believe in promoting from within. I think, let's see, and then some interviewing tips. You can go online to Google and you can Google, before I go there, let me just share real quick. I do have, and you will get a copy of this. This is a listing of all the jobs within Turning Point that BSWs qualify for. And so you can see there's well over 30 jobs here that BSWs can qualify for. And so we just encourage you to go to our website right here, www.tpcp.org. Click on career opportunities and just check out all of these job titles. If you want to apply for them, you can upload your resume and apply right then and there for as many of the jobs as you'd like to. But going back to the interview tips, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can figure out how to do that. Okay, so interview tips, you know what? Like I said, you could go on Google and you could Google interviewing tips and get probably an entire list. but I wanted to share with you from my perspective, I do hundreds and hundreds of interviews every year, not only with interns, but with people who are applying for our clinical positions. And so these are a couple of things that I think are important for you to know. When you write your cover letter and your resume, you should always use past tense. When I think it's important to research the agency that you're applying for very thoroughly. And in your interview, bring up a comment that you found very deep in their website when you're doing the research, to communicate to that interviewer that you did do all that research and you discovered things that you had to do 10 clicks to get to. Have a set of meaningful questions to ask the interview following your conversation. Find something in your research about what the agency does that connects with a passion that you have. And mention teamwork-based projects to demonstrate that you are a good team player. In your cover letter or your resume, explain your process in completing a big project or something that you worked on. Also, go to your interview with the attitude that you want to work for that agency, not that you just need a job. Work into the conversation that you have hobbies or outside interests that can demonstrate that you're a hard worker and that you're committed. Work into the conversation how you manage stress in your life and that you're intentional with your self-care. If you have other extracurricular activities that are relevant, mention them. If you're able to do an interview in person, find something in that interviewer's office that you can compliment or connect with. And if you can get an interviewer to talk about why they love their job and why their agency is amazing, research shows us that when they think back to your interview and they're making that hiring decision, they're going to remember that interview with positive thoughts. Let's see. If you have achieved things that are measurable, be sure to put those in your cover letter or resume. Like if your hard work resulted in a 20% increase in productivity or something like that, that's really important to put down. Mention that you're solution focused, you're emotionally intelligent, you work well on a team, and you're very strength-based in your perspective and that you follow through. Those are all important things for your interview to know about you. Don't ever badmouth a previous employer. It will leave a bad taste in the interviewer's mind. And don't cut off the interview. Don't cut off the interviewer and don't interrupt them. It's really impolite and rude. And don't ramble on in your answers. Try to stay focused and stick to what the question is asking. And then last thing, and this is a no-brainer, but I think we need to say it, right? When interviewing, don't chew gum, don't eat food, don't sit there slurping on your soda. Remember to dress professionally and have an appropriate background if you're doing a virtual interview. So those are interview tips, according to Deborah Roberts. That's really the end of my presentation. I am so available to anyone if you have additional questions. And like I said, the materials that I have here, you will have access to them. So thank you.
Deborah, I love the interview tips by Deborah Roberts. I think that I would love to market those the way they are ahead of students interviewing with you for placement too.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And students, I know that you may have questions, so I'd encourage you to either put them in the chat or write them down so that when it's time for Q&A, that any one of our presenters could answer them. But I'd like to ask Ruth, you're kind of next on my list of people. Are you in a position, can you share with us a little bit about opportunities and kind of your advice?
Certainly. Well, let's say I have to go after being behind Deborah. I'm a little concerned. I was just texting with my coworker how much we both admired her comments and engagement because she hit everything right on the nail. Anyway, earlier I described my agency, so I don't think I need to go further into that. To tell you specifically what a bachelor's level student does at Senior and Adult Services, they would work in the in-home supportive services program. What that program does, I want you to picture an umbrella of the county of Sacramento. And then I want you to picture some big agencies that do social services. One is the health department. The other is the Department of Human Assistance. And the third one that does social services is Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services. In the Department of Human Assistance, what social workers, people with bachelor's degrees, who can be, the Department of Human Assistance has what are called human services specialists. Their job is to get benefits for people for which they qualify. So this is going to be CalWorks, CalFresh, Medi-Cal, these kinds of things. So these are public benefits that anybody can apply for. And the worker in this instance works in an office setting. They do a lot of their work through the phone, and they do what's called task-based stuff, where they get a list of assignments at the beginning of their day, and they have to go into various cases and work out what the issues are according to a set of criteria, okay? So that's going to be office-based, and that position, Melissa and I were just looking these up on the org charts. Oh, I just had them handy. That position is going to start at about $48,000 a year. Nice thing about working for the government, it's all public information. So if you do a Google Sacramento County classification chart, compensation chart, it'll tell you for this county and every other county, as well as any other civil service entity. So that's $48,000 to do social work from the office. In my office, go back to the umbrella, I'm in the Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services. And in our division, we do field work, right? So that's basically what you've been trained for. We find that at times there are people who, when they go into training, they think that the clients are going to come to them and they're going to sit in a little office and they're going to go back and forth and they're going to do their work that way. And they find it very intimidating to do field work where you go to the home and the life of your clients. In in-home supportive services, we're also determining eligibility for this caregiving service. So our social workers go into the home and they use some specific criteria and some areas of functionality where they check what kind of activities of daily living people are performing independently and which ones they need assistance with. And then they kind of rate them and score them. And together they come up with how many hours of caregiving a person qualifies for. But to do that, you have to go to their home. And with that, there can be some unique field challenges associated with that. Anything from lots of people in the vicinity, maybe neighborhoods that are uncomfortable, at times just all the driving. You know, when I was a social worker, it wasn't uncommon to do 100 or more miles a day, just traveling around from place to place. These social workers are going to start at about, I'm going to say 55,000 a year. So that's beginning level work. And remember, this has benefits, you know, your medical benefits. And if you stay with us long enough, a pension, which is a very big deal. But that is for bachelor's level workers. So again, just don't get us attached to one place at the county because there's lots of different places in the county. Let's see, our agency's process for hiring, we go, because it's civil service, we go through lists, which means you submit your qualifications online. You do a search online. So you go to the county job board and there are, I want to say probably close to between 7,000 and 1,000 different positions. So you would have to search using keywords like social work, right? Or casework or field or things like that. So you would search up these different positions for which you may qualify. And for each different classification type, you put in your information, and usually it says, do you have this experience, yes or no? Do you have this experience, yes or no? So we try to get it that way so that people, it's kind of a series of switches to see if you qualify. For every one of those tests you take. That's what they're called, a test. For every one of those tests you take, you get a rank. The county can only hire from the top 3 ranks. So if you take 100 people apply for a job, 2 of them are going to be rank 1, 5 of them are going to be rank 2, 6 of them are going to be rank 3. One of those ranks, all the people have to be hired before ranks 4, 5, and 6 can be hired. So these are always changing all the time. The state does the same thing. So remember them as an employer as well. And from there, these lists, they go to hiring supervisors. So there are supervisors at all times hiring. So to give you an idea, where I work in senior and adult services, we have, I'd say, 22 different hiring supervisors just in social services. Melissa has far more. So what they do is they then request the list from personnel and they look at the top names on the list. From there, they then crack into the resume that's online. So the recommendations for you are always going to be making sure that your resume is clean, that you don't have any typos, that it's sticking to 1 or 2 pages, that it's not in an offensive or irritating font, that it's just easy to read and straightforward, that it speaks to what your experience and skills are without a lot of buzzwords. We can see through those pretty well. Let's see, what do we recommend? Let's see, process for hiring. What can BSWs do? Let's see, I've got the picture right over top. To be successful in their interviews. Well, again, I just can't echo enough what Deborah said. Very much we hire for attitude in front of skills. We know if you've got that degree in your hand that you've learned something. Surprisingly, there are a lot of people, even after the bachelor's training, who still have biases. We all do. Populations they don't want to work with, cultures and groups they don't want to work with. Some people don't know that they are scared of the field and that they prefer the structure of an office setting, or that they don't like jobs that require odd hours. You know, they think they want to work 8 to 5 and that's what's comfortable for them, as opposed to maybe working on call or working into the evenings, something of that nature. So it's kind of important to kind of know what your preferences are. As well as being open to the thing you didn't think you wanted to do, because there's always something to learn out there. There's never a shortage of populations. The story I tell is that when I was in graduate school at Sac State in 1996, the field instructor asked us to think about the population we absolutely could not work with. Who did we not want to work with? Because you got to know yourself, right? So anyway, my population was older people. There was no way in the world I could work with older people because that just wasn't going to work with me. But you know, careers don't go the way you think they're going to go. So here I am, the division manager of senior and adult services, and of course I'm in love with it. So, and another little tip, this is for your second job, not your first one, but your second job. One of my coworkers says this, and I really love it. She says, every day is a job interview. Once you got your foot in the door and you're there, remember how you conduct yourself, what you do. And again, that attitude and the emotional intelligence that Deborah was talking about, those are the things that make you marketable for the next position. And so just don't do harm to yourself by having bad habits. Those bad habits, you know, again, talking poorly about previous employees, being the gossiper, at times how you talk about working conditions can influence how you're perceived. There's a right way and a wrong way. You know, most supervisors tend to be pretty open and willing to listen to you if you approach them from a place of kindness and mutual understanding, if you presume good intention. What not to do in an interview. Deborah thoroughly covered that. What skills do you see that our social work students bring into an agency that would be transferable anywhere they go? Again, that flexibility. I can't emphasize that enough. You know, social workers, we're all trained to take things as it comes. And obviously, like it was explained earlier, this has been the year of being flexible and doing things different than we ever have before. those skills will always go. Hopefully you've got some communication skills as well as assessment skills. You know, you may not necessarily be assessing for a problem, but you're always scouting and reading environments. You're always making sense of, what do I see? What does this mean? How does this all play together? And you understand that all behavior is goal-oriented. It doesn't just happen in a silo. It doesn't happen just because people are narcissistic or self-indulgent, you know, that there's a reason for the way people behave. And most of the time, it is for an important reason. So I would definitely pay attention to those skills. And again, being good listeners, you know, that's the social workers. That's one of the first things we're trained to do, is not just hearing the words people say, but hearing the intention behind the words, as well as understanding the broader meaning. You know, it's so hard. I've got my kid in here. And so one of the things that we talk about is good communication, and not being the kind of person that is so busy thinking of what we're going to say next that we fail to hear what our person is saying. You know, just basic, right? Very basic, but surprisingly, it doesn't happen all the time out there. I think that's about all I've got, because I just don't have any huge things. And if I keep talking, my kid's going to start cracking up in the background and tell you that I'm a fraud or something silly like that. So there she goes. There she goes. Anyway, thank you very much for having us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth. And one of the things you just mentioned was, if we could listen to listen and not listen to respond, right? Like, if I could just remember that in my relationship, I probably would eliminate half the fights that I find myself into, right? And I say that in jest, but I think in general, we do need to be present and actually be present. So thank you for that. And I think it just makes sense, Melissa, if you go next, since you are part of the larger umbrella together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I did not give much of an overview of my specific agencies. So I'll start out with that. So again, Melissa Lloyd, Deputy Director for Child Protective Services for Sacramento County. So one of the things that I wanted to start with was just a brief amount of data, because most people, if you're not familiar with Child Protective Services or child welfare, most people, because of the beautiful job media does about portraying who we are, there's a lot of myths out there about what child protection work is about. And so just to give some context, I just wanted to start out and share with you, overall, we work with children and families for whom there have been allegations of abuse or neglect of children. We have a hotline. Our hotline runs 24/7 every day of the year, and that's the Child Abuse and Neglect Hotline. So the context I want to give you is we average on an annual basis about 4,500 calls a month to our hotline. From there, and this is in Sacramento County, from there, out of those 4,000 to 4,500 calls, we average about 1,100 investigations. And from those investigations, we place about 80 to 90 kids into protective custody a month. And in the last couple of years, that's actually decreased quite a bit. We're averaging more around 60. So I wanted to share that data with you, because oftentimes people think CPS, they just come and take kids and put them into care. They take them away from their parents. And I think it's just really important, any opportunity that I have to share, to give that context of the data. So we're going from about 4,500 calls a month, resulting in about, right now, the last couple of years of, again, COVID, kind of put us kind of wonky with our data, but about 65 kids in our county that go into care. And so overall, our agency, we investigate allegations. We get those calls at the hotline. And for families, for situations that are presented at our hotline, we have social workers who answer those phones, both bachelor and master's level social workers. And at times there's no need to open an investigation. which I just shared by sharing that data, but we still will do what we call a warm handoff to the community. So we will move things kind of through a route of prevention to try and get families connected with community services. Nothing from the call presents as a need to open up an investigation, but some information from that call can help us understand that this family may need a little bit of help. Maybe they have some food insecurity, they've got some housing insecurity, but it's nothing that rises to the level of a child being abused or neglected. Majority of the families that we do work with, as you could probably imagine, are families of color and families who are living in poverty. It's no surprise, I think, to anyone, if you look at child welfare across our nation, that more families that get called on are families that don't have a lot of supportive services in general. And so we do a tremendous amount of work to really help from a lens of prevention. And so it's really, by the time a call comes in and an investigation is started, it really is essentially kind of like a tertiary level of prevention, but we do a tremendous amount of work to prevent removal. And I'm very proud of that work, because in the last 6 to 10 years, we've really expanded our work on prevention work, or prevention services. So with that, we do place children in care. And so we have social workers that, once the investigation is completed, and all of our social workers, we have both bachelor and master level positions of social workers. And the work doesn't look different between the two classifications. It doesn't look different in child welfare. But from investigations, we go to what is called our permanency services. And these social workers work with families where children have been removed, or where there has not been a removal, but we have petitioned the court and the court is involved with the family. And those are our permanency workers in Sacramento County at present time. And this has been the same number for about the last 2 years. We have about 1,300 kids in care. We have reduced our number of kids in foster care tremendously, about 33% in the last 5 years. And that is through the prevention work that we do. And it's exciting work. And that's why I really want to hone into it, because we've got a lot of front end opportunities for our social workers to do that work and help families stay intact. In all of my time being a social worker, and of course I've promoted through the years and all that, and I'm doing the role that I have now. But in all of my years of working in child protection work, I could count on one hand the number of families who intended for their child to be harmed. Most of our families are really just suffering from issues of poverty, of discrimination, and just having a lack of overall resources. So we do as much as possible to help keep them together or help reunify them. So we also license foster homes. And for anyone who might be familiar, you may or may not, resource family has essentially replaced the term foster parent. So we in Sacramento County do our own licensing of resource families, and those previously known as foster families. And it's not the same in every county, but we have about 800 families that we have active right now in Sacramento County. And then we also partner with our foster family agencies for placement opportunities for kids and youth that are in out-of-home care. Our resource family approval program, we have social workers in that program who go out and work with prospective resource families to get them licensed. There are so many things under the umbrella of child protection social work, from investigations to ongoing work to work in our adoptions units, the resource family approval that I shared, the hotline. There's a lot of opportunities. One of the things that that I want to share is there's a lot of, I mentioned the court earlier, so the work with the families who are involved in court, that requires interacting with our court partners, writing court reports, presenting information to the juvenile court. It's very exciting work. The work overall in CPS is very challenging work, extremely challenging. I want to go through these bullets just to make sure that I capture everything, but I also want to share a couple of additional highlights. For the BSW roles in child protection work, I've mentioned the bachelor level social workers, but I also want to mention another classification that some graduates from Sac State have taken the opportunity of, and that's the family service worker classification. Our family service workers are essentially, the way I would describe them is it's somewhat of a paraprofessional opportunity, and where we have had great success when we haven't had bachelor social worker positions opened, we have had people who have, Ruth mentioned those lists, those civil service, you know, where everyone at the county is hired via the civil service process. And so when you go on and look at the website and you look at those different classifications, and they are multiple, so really pay attention to what Ruth said about using the keywords. Family service worker is a classification where they essentially assist children and families with visitation, with transportation, and they support the work of the social worker. We have had great success in our agency having people come in who have a bachelor's degree at a family service worker level with the goal of then moving into a bachelor's social worker level position. Our family service workers started about $37,000 a year, but and bachelor social workers, as Ruth said, they started about 55. But please, you know, give some consideration to that, because it's a really great opportunity to essentially, like it said, get your foot in the door, start with county employment, and then as an existing employee, when a bachelor level position comes up, a social work position, you essentially will have a bit more of an opportunity to advance, different than if you were just coming off the list. But both ways are fine. We depending on what the need is and what vacancies there are, my advice would be get on any list you can. With that being said, our process for hiring varies just a little bit from our adult services that Ruth described. We started probably about 5 years ago going through a cohort model for hiring and training. And so what we do in CPS is we have an actual workforce development unit, and this is a team of people who routinely go through the list Ruth described, ranking on the list. So they go through that list and they set up the interviews, and the interviews go through our workforce development unit. But our social work supervisors and family service worker supervisors are on those panels. So once the initial interviews are conducted, it's determined where a good fit might be, if we're going to call people back for a second interview or not. And then from there, when a candidate is offered a job and accepts that job, they will go into what's called a cohort. We have found in child protective services that, of course, training is essential, but we have learned a lot, especially over the last couple of decades. We've learned the value of bringing people in as a cohort, because it affords the new staff to be together as a team and go through that training together. So we are very committed to not overloading a newly hired social worker, because it doesn't benefit kids or families to do that, and it doesn't benefit the newly hired individual. Very different than 20 years ago when, you know, both Ruth and I, she was doing child protection work at that time. You walk into your job, there's 25, 30, 35 cases on your desk, and they're like, go for it. You were an intern, you're good to go. We don't do that anymore because we understand. I could talk all day about the importance of training in regard to working with kids and families. So our process is a little bit different. As far as the fourth bullet about success in interviews, I echo everything that Deborah said, you know, as Ruth did. One thing that I did want to share is something that comes up pretty regularly, and I'm seeing a trend with it. Please do not list references that you have not talked to and asked if they would be a reference. There's nothing more awkward than calling for a reference and the person that we're calling that the applicant has put down has no idea that they've been listed for a reference. So that is very important. There is, as has been stated, so many resources for preparing for interviews, but that is one thing that what it does is it demonstrates that there was not good planning done. And so we really are looking for people who, you know, there's all of the interviewing etiquette, but what it really speaks to, and I'll hone in on one major area that Deborah talked about, but it really speaks to how meaningfully the applicant planned for this opportunity. Doing research is essential. A lot of times we will have people who apply for the jobs because at the county in child protective work, people kind of glom onto that salary. So as a bachelor's, you're looking at coming in, you know, 55, 58,000, I forget where it's full benefits, great benefit package. So people are kind of like, oh, well, this community agency only pays this much, and so I'm going to go do that. Do the research. Be aware of what you're interviewing for. It is essential. We are looking for people who are, you know, applying. You don't have to be an expert in critical thinking, but who have a level of professionalism where they're taking the time to do the research to really understand the work. There's so many people that come into the interviews who say, I want to help children. So this is a key piece of advice. Many people come forward and they interview and they say, I'm here because I want to help children. And when we get to the point of really trying to pull out like what their understanding of helping children means, many people will show surprise at the work that we do includes working with parents. So you cannot ever help a child if you are not capable of helping a parent, because it goes hand in hand. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Like, I think everything, we could do a whole child welfare interview prep, I think, and just the parameters around it. And then I'm looking at the time and I'm realizing, I've got like 8 minutes and I want Megumi to talk and stuff. And I thank you so much for what you've shared.
Sure. Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
One last thing. So the whole thing about, you know, you've got to be willing to work with everyone and children's relatives and all of that. But the other thing that that I wanted to offer is that once you are hired with the county as a bachelor level social worker, within Sacramento County, we offer job conversions for people who are going for their masters. So that is something to give consideration for. Many of our current employees who come in as bachelors are provided that support to move forward into a master's program, and we do job conversions. That's it for me. And I will also put my information in the chat, and you can reach out if needed.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And Megumi, would you like to talk about the agency you're representing?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I joined late. Technical difficulties. I work for Stanford Settlement Neighborhood Center. I am the assistant director here. We are a very small private nonprofit social service agency located in the north side of Sacramento. We serve Garland, Northgate, South Natomas, and a little bit of Del Paso Heights and North Sacramento. We are settlement house and we're a neighborhood center. So the only requirement to use any of our services to just live right around us. You don't have to prove anything else. We don't ask for your income or your how dysfunctional your family is. That's not what we're concerned. I mean, we are concerned, but all we want to know is that you live here and then you are entitled to any of our services. We have 3 major programs: children's program and a teen center and in the senior center. And our emergency assistance program, the big portion of it is our Christmas basket program that we provide holiday assistance to families in the neighborhood. And we do a little bit of a crisis management as needed for anybody who lives here. Like a random thing that happened this week is I forgot my password for my EDD account. And then you know how EDD is right now, you can't really get through. So I need some help setting my password up. And this is a senior who does not really have access to internet. So we do random things like that. And since COVID, we kind of flipped outward. Our center-based programs are all closed temporarily still. So we do a lot of home visits on a daily basis. We partner with outside agencies, entities like the Twin Rivers Unified School District. We had many opportunities to tag along with a CPS ER worker to go do, home visits. We did a lot of different things that I can't even list during this pandemic, but we are a small agency. So flexibility is our selling point. We get to kind of flip around and then do what's needed in that moment. And our agency mostly only hires BSWs. We are a great place to start. I was a student intern myself, graduated from Sac State, and I just got lucky and I got hired on and kind of worked my way up. But a lot of our stuff, a lot of the staff that I have currently under me are all Sac State students, and 4 of the staff that I have directly under me were my students. So we love hiring student interns. That's our favorite way of new hire. But when we can't have student interns, then we do like Indeed, or we share information with county contact that we have. Sometimes I ask the student interns to share with their classmates, and then we get to meet different students from a class and interview. And everybody else say great things about what to do, what not to do when you're looking for a job. But a few things that I like to look for when we interview people. Like I said, we love hiring BSWs, and we're a great starting point. People have great resumes with excellent experiences and skills, and that's all great. But the core of, I think, graduating BSWs is the field experience. So when I ask about, oh, how was your field and what was it like, and tell me about how, your experience, and when their face light up and they can paint a picture like it was awesome and this happened, and it's almost like I was there. I don't know what you did, but I was there, and I can paint a great picture of your experience, and then how meaningful that was, and then what meant a lot to you. That shows passion, and then your devotion, and that you are interested in this line of work. And that's something that I love hearing in an interview. And also, I think the Sac State field experience prepares you for the next level thing, the professionalism and punctuality, and a little adulting things. Like, you need to probably delete your voicemails if you're applying for a job, because I need to be able to leave a message if I want to interview with you. And then just filling out an application, turn in your resume if you're applying, return a phone call, like a simple things. But the first phone call that I make to schedule an interview is kind of like a first impression. And when I can't even leave a message, I'm starting from a negative point, kind of. So that's my thing. And what else? And we are a small agency, but everything that we do is direct service. Well, majority of the things that we do. So, and we cannot do our work without relationship with our clients and communities. So we look for interpersonal skills, ability to be approachable and build relationships and cultivate. That's, I think, a biggest thing that I look for when we interview applicants.
Thanks, Megumi. And I love how homegrown Stanford settlement has always been. You know, I think that there's something really special about that. And it's like a legacy that keeps on giving, you know, and I love to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And, you know, I apologize, Terri, I want you to talk about CHOC. Please do not feel hampered by the time. And I just want to say, having you go last was not a testament to the work that you do at all. So I wanted to just make sure I acknowledge that and respect the time, but also say that I really want to hear about CHOC and their information that they would like to provide to students, because you hire too. Oh, Terri, can everybody hear Terri?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I guess I have to unmute in several spots when you have earphones in. Good evening. I'm trying to go through, and I don't want to repeat a lot of the great things that I have fully support all of the fellow presenters have done. So a quick description of CHOC is we're an affordable housing developer. So we actually focus on housing instability with families that are housed. So we find that, you know, just putting a roof over someone's head isn't going to make them secure, isn't going to bring kind of that, you know, the wholeness into that family and bring everything that they need just because they have a roof over their head. So we offer a resident services and a youth and family services program that creates that safety net to keep them housed, to keep them stable, and maybe gain some of that self-sufficiency skills if they want to go out and, you know, become homeowners or move somewhere else. So our centers, our offices and community centers are run right in our apartment communities. So most of our organization is a development team. They spend years working on the financing for new projects. We just got awarded $21 million yesterday. That was showcased on the ABC 7 News in LA, and we will be building an affordable housing project in Palm Springs, which will be the first affordable housing in over 12 years in that area. So it's huge. People wonder why we're a social worker in housing when people are already housed. We tend to work with a population that's just poor, for any lack of better term. A lot of times they don't, unless there's a crisis or something happening, they may not qualify for a lot of the typical county services. So we're there to help kind of bring all of those resources in to them right where they're living. Running inside the community acts like a little family resource center or neighborhood center. They can come into the community room, they can meet with the social worker there. We've got youth coordinators running after school programs. We have computer labs. So we're kind of a one-stop shop for anything that they may need. I do hire bachelors. I think 50 to 60% of my current team are all past interns. I shared in the very beginning that I am an intern of CHOC. I helped design the program when I was getting my MSW, so my first year. And then the second year I got to stay with CHOC and really dive in and do a lot more work. So it's been an exciting time. Our bachelor's level staff do a lot. They do a lot of multi-level practice. We are working one-on-one with families. We're running activity-based groups. And then we do a lot of community-based stuff, working with the entire apartment. We want our families to feel like it's a home for them. We want them to be neighborly. We want them to learn those life skills of being able to survive. And then we want them to make use and make most of all of the resources that are around their housing community also, and how we can kind of, bring those in or bring our clients out to those resources. So they do case management, activity group, a lot of outreach, door to door, working on increasing participation in our services and doing education. We've done a ton of outreach in this last year over rent relief through this pandemic, and how we've been able to support them to secure their housing and get all of their rent and utility paid. So our interns right now and our current bachelor staff have just worked out in the field. We are in the field. We've never been remote. We've been on our sites, and they've hit the ground running and have secured a lot, I think over $74,000 just in rent relief for families. We work with a lot of partners, and we worked with Elk Grove Unified School District and Twin Rivers. And as soon as the pandemic hit, we shifted straight into their partner to serve their school meals for them. And through the pandemic, we've served, I think, over 70,000 meals in our Sacramento County sites. So they've done a lot of on the ground work that I think that they wouldn't otherwise have access to if our team wasn't right there in the housing with them. Let's see, looking, so the hiring process for hiring, honestly, we're private nonprofit, so we advertise, but our first group that we go to are our current interns. So, and I tell everybody that if I'm investing 9 months in you and you're investing it in me and it's working, I want you to stay on. And I have a staff right now who ended her internship and literally did not give up her keys, and she stayed, and she was a volunteer until a position opened, and she's still with us, and she's now a field instructor, and I have several staff that are in that same boat. So, and interns that just, post interns that just will email and say, hey, do you have a job opening? Just checking in, letting you know what's going on, and it'll just be perfect timing. And I'll say, yes, come in, this is amazing timing. So, don't ever just walk away. Make sure you kind of keep that networking going, because it's super important. Looking for an applicant, I think everyone has, said everything else, but I think the only thing is I added that super eager to learn. We have really hard jobs, and I want an applicant and a staff that's going to come in and just be ready to learn and open to learn and take risks and put yourself out there. How to be successful in an interview. I think everything has really been talked about. Two things I always say to our current interns when they're prepping for interviews is, don't ever disregard your experience that wasn't social service related. You may have great experience de-escalating people in a customer service field. You may have some experience helping one of your old bosses do some scheduling or other kinds of program development. It may not be social service related, but it speaks volumes to the skills, that you're bringing in to the job right now. And then don't limit yourself to those skills that you've learned with maybe one population that you did in field. So if you worked with seniors in field and you're, happen to be interviewing to work with children and families, I don't like it when a student will say, oh, well, I've never done that. I've never worked that. You've done those skills. You've just done them with a different population. So be able to make sure be able to verbalize how you can transfer those skills to the population that you're getting ready to try to interview for and get that job for. I think that's very important. Sorry, I'm trying to rush okay. And it's exciting. Skills transferable anywhere they go. Everybody has said some great things. The few things that I wanted to add was setting boundaries with yourself and with your clients. Some of us come in with this massive heart and we think that this is it and we're gonna solve everything. Be realistic and set those boundaries. Learn how to set a boundary as early as you would start termination sometimes. I think that if someone comes in our situation, they can have an appointment or they can just walk into our office. And I teach our field interns all the time. Set the boundary right, learn how to set a boundary right when they walk in by saying, hey, I only have this much time. So it's just those little steps and kind of learning how to do that. Networking, it's huge. This is a small world. This is a small world. If I had 5 more minutes, I could talk to all the other presenters and we would figure out where we've either worked together, how we've done it, who we've worked with, and who we know. It's amazing. So kudos, I don't remember who said it, don't badmouth another agency, because we all, especially in Sacramento, we all probably got our bachelor's and master's together right here at some point, and we're all a phone call away from each other. And then lastly, I think the biggest skill for you is your self-care and your sense of humor. We laugh a lot, we cry a lot, and we agonize a lot. And to be able to kind of take care of yourself as much as you are putting out and taking care of your clients is number one. Phew.
Thank you so much. Terri, Megumi, Melissa, Ruth, Deborah, she's gone at this point, but honestly, I think your messaging has been very universal and coming at it just as diverse as social worker is, right? Like just the field in general, it's like you all have different scopes and lanes that you've perfected and have this expertise in. And at the same time, you're all really just open and available for everybody. So I just really appreciate your time. Students, I realize that we are past our time and I do apologize for that. At the same time, please know that we're going to post all the recording in total so that you can re-listen to this, right? Because if you were like me and your 7-year-old was running around in the background, you may have missed a piece that you really wanted to hear again. So you'll have that opportunity. But at this point, Tessa or Isabella, do you have any questions? I would like to wrap respectively with everyone, but I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to contribute if you had anything to say.
I'm good. I just appreciate all of you coming out here and doing this for us. It's really informative, and I'm really appreciative of you taking your time to do this.
Yes,
Thank
I just
you
wanted
so
to
much.
echo that and say thank you so much for your time and for all of this incredible information. And my only question is just if this will be in a link or somewhere where I can share it with other students. And I think Megan already answered that for me. So I feel very grateful that this will be accessible. And just again, thank you so much for your time and for the energy of doing this. I think this will be so helpful for future students.
Yeah, that's absolutely our goal, right? Is to have something that students can feel like there's tangible resources or information, because once you leave the confines of a classroom, you're on your own. And that might be a uneasy feeling for a lot of you, because this is what you've known this whole time. And to know that there's resources and still those expectations and just those collaborations, right? These are all people that have provided information for you to contact them. And you know what? They mean it, right? They mean it when they say, contact us. If you have questions, contact me. All of them are busy, but this is what they're passionate about. And so they're going to make the opportunity to continue to have those networking. So I can't thank everybody enough. I've taken up even more of your time just rambling, and I apologize for that. But this stuff gives me energy, just like all of you give me energy. And I'm really grateful to all the presenters and the students that came and the faculty and staff that were here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
For having me.
And kudos to you.
Oh, your sound went out.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys for putting this together. especially for those of us who never had any of this, like just the more that you can give anybody, right? It goes hand in hand for the work that we all do in our communities and for our community. It's all about communicating, offering support. And this is what you guys, Kelly, Megan, and the rest of your crew there at CSUS, it's really impressive that you put this together for everyone.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.